welcome the Dean of our college, Dean College Piadoso, Dean Radian Piadoso, okay, for his opening remarks.
Binago mo pangalan ko, Greg, ha?
Ganyan talaga din.
Magandang umaga sa ating lahat. Isang karangalan na magkaroon ng ganitong una na among the UPLB or the system of being gear up ating seminar. Papasalamat ako siyempre kay Doc Greg sa kanyang pagsusumikap na magkaroon tayo ng mga batingang speakers para sa ating support ng ating flexible learning. At papasalamat din ako sa mga kunyagi at nagtaguyod nitong webinar na to na pinangungunahan ni Doc Greg nga, ang Dean's Office. Ngayon ay si Melvin ang nakatutok. At nag-birthday si Associate Dean Jenny kahapon, sakang anak yata ngayon. So sa pamunuan ng kolehiyo ng Ekolohiyang Pantao, sa mga kaguruan at sa mga ng CHE at sa kaguruan ng UP Los Baños at iba pang mga lumalahok dito sa webinar na ito, ay magandang umaga sa ating lahat, lalo na sa ating tagapagsalita. At nagpapasalamat kami kay Dr. Jonna Marie Lim ng Scholastica College, Manila, sa kanyang pagbibigay ng oras upang ibahagi sa atin ang mga bagay na kailangan nating matutunan dahil dito sa pandemyang ito ay kailangan nating magkaroon ng isang pag-aaral na naiiba, na hindi face-to-face. Kaya ang kanyang topic na selecting strategies and designing instruction materials for synchronous and asynchronous learning ay isang mahalagang paksa upang matutunan ng lahat ng mga participants natin ngayong umagang ito ano ang mga dapat pang maintindihan natin upang maibigay natin ang mga kaalaman sa ating mga mag-aaral sa pamamagitan ng flexible learning na ito sa panahong ito. At sa ngalan ng pamunuan ng kolehiyo ng Human Ecology at saka ng UP Los Baños, papasalamat kami muli kay Dr. Jonna Marie Lim sa oras na ito at hinahangad kong isang magandang talakayan sa loob ng 2 oras na webinar na ito. Kaya maraming salamat, Doc Greg, maraming salamat sa iyong pangunguna sa gawain ito. Thank you po. Magandang umaga.
Okay, maraming salamat din. So bago natin tawagin ang ating panahing pandangal ngayong araw na ito, ako'y gusto ko muna ipakilala siya sa inyo. Okay, so ang ating tagapagsalita ngayong araw na ito ay isa sa mga pinakamahusay na guro at pinakabatang administrador dito sa ating bansa. Siya po ay nagtapos ng BSE, major in English sa Philippine Normal University, and she also holds a PhD in Applied Linguistics and MA in Teaching English Language from De La Salle University, Manila. She's currently a part-time faculty of the DLSU Graduate School and a high school principal at St. Scholastica College, Manila, where she started out as a high school teacher of English 15 years ago. She recently published course modules on purposive communication and content and pedagogy for the mother tongue for Rex Publishing. Her 3rd module, Language Programs and Policies in Multilingual Societies, is currently in press. Her research interests include language teaching and assessment, curriculum design and materials development, language acquisition, and social linguistics. So, without further ado, my dear colleagues, I would like to present to you and let us welcome Professor Dr. Jonna Lim. Welcome, Ms. Jonna.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, Ms. Jonna.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Dean Raden Piadoso. Magandang umaga po. Maraming salamat po sa imbitasyon. Magandang umaga din po sa College Execo members, to Dr. Pawilin, at syempre sa lahat po ng kaguruan po ng UPLB, especially po sa College of Human Ecology. Maraming salamat po sa imbitasyon. Allow me to share screen first. Ay, pwede po bang makahingi ng permission as co-host? Hindi po ako maka-share screen. Hintayin lang po natin. Ayan. See. Hintayin lang po, ha? Aha. Nakikita nyo na po?
Yes, Jonna, pero hindi siya naka-full screen.
Ay, hindi siya naka-full screen. Dahil lang. Ilabas natin. Ulit. Share screen. Ito. Ayan po, naka-full screen na po.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, okay.
Okay. Okay. Let me see. Okay, okay na po tayo. Kamusta po kayo lahat? Nakailang participants po ba tayo? Hindi lang nawawala yung aking ano.
Mga 51, we are 51.
We have 51, Dean. Thank you so much. So, I was assigned to share with you selecting strategies and designing instructional materials for synchronous and asynchronous learning. At gusto ko po sana magsimula, I would want to begin with how were we before pre-COVID-19? I would want to believe that we can still walk in the park during that time. As teachers, we are expected to be course writers, instructional designers, and of course, to be in the classroom to teach our students. So medyo okay pa tayo, kahit pa paano manageable pa ang pagiging guro. Then COVID-19 happened. This time, we are not only expected to be course writers, instructional designers, teachers, we are now expected to become administrators because we are expected to set up our classrooms virtually. We have to be editors, we have to be printers, dispatchers, and the list goes on. And if you haven't noticed, habang tumatagal, parang dumadami lalo yung roles natin bilang teachers. And we all know that this can be very overwhelming, but I am getting the impression that this is your first day of reporting back to work. I'm not sure, because this is the first seminar that you will be having. I think very crucial ngayon sa panahon na to na we manage expectations. Maraming pwedeng gawin, maraming sinasabi sa atin na gagawin natin at kailangan natin gawin. But of course, critical that we manage expectations so as not to overwhelm ourselves as well. So I would want to begin our session by managing expectations. First, I'm not going to claim that I'm an expert on the subject matter. When Dr. Pauwilan invited me, I actually was clueless why he invited me. But I think he's more interested to hear from me my personal experience, not only as an administrator, but most importantly, as a teacher. So today, I will be your sharer. Just call me Jonna. I think I know some people. I saw Sir Paeng kanina. Kasama ko yan si Sir Paeng, nagsulat sa isa sa mga modules. I'm not an expert on educational technology. I would want to believe that I'm a very hardworking teacher like you and a stressed but blessed administrator. So medyo challenging yung nagiging work experiences ko for quite some time because most of the time I'm exposed to basic education, given that I'm a school administrator at St. Manila. But at the same time, I'm also given the opportunity to teach graduate school. In grad school in De La Salle, I have been teaching for more than a year now, a hybrid class. And then came in the pandemic, kaya talagang we had to do full online. So what I'm going to share with you is a combination of the experiences that I had and I have right now as a teacher and as an administrator. So whenever we talk about managing expectations, syempre dapat malinaw din, ano lang po ang kaya kong ibigay sa inyo ngayon. Sinabi ko po sa inyo kanina, hindi po ako expert on educational technology at hindi rin po ako sobrang teching tao. Steady lang. Kaya kong intindi, and one of the best means for me to learn technology, for example, or use the use of technology specifically in classroom instruction, is through YouTube. Malaking bagay po sa akin ang YouTube. Pag meron po akong hindi maintindihan, i-YouTube agad yan. So, ganun lang ang level po ng pagiging techie ko rin. nakakayanan, kinakaya, pero hindi ka talaga sobrang galing. So what I'm going to share to you right now, hopefully you will not be overwhelmed also, is yung nakayanan ko rin lang. So here are the 3 questions that we hope to answer at the end of this session. First, how do I deliver course content online? Second, what to look for in adapting, or designing a material? And lastly, there's a typo. Will I be doing synchronous or asynchronous learning? Yan lang po 3 tanong ang sasagutin natin, and hopefully you'll see the relationships among the 3 questions as we go about the discussion. I did not design this webinar to be interactive because I know that there's a challenge for us to lessen our screen time. So I'll just go over my sharing. Then latter part or end of the session, we will allow you to ask questions or even share your insights as well. Ha? Pero hindi ko po siya dinesign na pang-interactive talaga ang dating para mas mabilis po matapos yung ating presentation. So I would want to begin on the premise of my presentation that the mode of instruction is online. I know that SHED requires us to adopt flexible learning, and I know UPLB has a lot of mechanisms set in place already on how flexible learning can be implemented next school year. But this presentation specifically, actually when I was brainstorming, conceptualizing about this presentation, sabi ko, kakagating ko ba yung buong flexible learning, etc. But when I was trying to filter out, when I was finalizing already the ideas that I would want to share with you, I decided to focus only on one mode of instruction, and that is online. I saw that in your, nasa ano nyo naman po nasa in-service nyo po na meron po kayong mga sessions on flexible learning, and I saw also one for course modules, developing course modules. That's why I'm not going to touch that anymore in this presentation. So the presentation's premise is that the mode of instruction is online. What are the facts here that we cannot deny? First, our students have different internet speed and amount of data. Assuming po that our students here have internet po, we have students who have reliable and fast internet, and we have students who have limited, slow, intermittent internet. So, wala na pong question yan. Another fact as teachers that we have to reconcile with is that we need to select instructional strategies and design instructional materials that promote equitable opportunities for learning despite the differences in internet connection. Of course, this should hold true as well to students without internet connection, na dapat pare-pareho at pantay-pantay ang oportunidad ng estudyante na matuto at mag-succeed po sa mga klase po natin. At this point, I would want to already emphasize that during my sharing, there will be an interchange and an indistinguishable line between instructional strategies and instructional materials. Makikita nyo mamaya how these lines are blurred. Of course, in reality, whenever we talk about strategies, meron talaga tayong specific operational definition of what instructional strategies are and what instructional materials are. But the way I personally experience it, and even literature would also back it up, that especially in an online environment, these two would already overlap. And of course, another fact is that the school has identified your learning management system, and we have to use the LMS effectively and efficiently. Ito na ang magiging classroom natin sa susunod na taon. I was told by Dr. Pawilin that the university will be using Canvas. So tamang-tama din po kasi po Canvas din po ang ginagamit po namin sa grad school. So we go to question number 1. How do I deliver course content online? So yan po ang basic nating tanong sa sarili natin. Siyempre, kapag sa normal na araw, how do we deliver course content? Kung ano yung mga itinuturo natin, nakikita tayo sa classroom. Maraming paraan. But this time, dahil online siya, there is a physical separation between the teacher and the learner. How can we still deliver our course content? The answer is very simple. Just go, of course, to simple, then the workload that goes along with it is not simple. We deliver course content through various instructional materials, of course, by using the technological tools that are available to us. So I highlighted here instructional materials. This is how critical the role of instructional materials right now. I will not be dwelling too much as to how the principles of the development of instructional materials, because I need to respect that all of you, perhaps, most likely all of you, have been in the teaching profession for so long, and I don't think I'm in the best position to tell you how your instructional material should really look like, okay? So mas magfo-focus tayo ngayon sa instructional materials that we will use in the new normal. But specifically, ang idinagdag ko po dito, sabay po ng pag-uusapan natin yung instructional materials in the delivery of content, is that how we can use Canvas in the delivery of content, okay? Siyempre, unang tanong, where do we usually get these materials that we're talking about? There are 3 strategies in materials development. It's either you adopt an existing material, or you adapt an existing material, or of course, you create a material. Wala pong nakakalamang sa tatlo, any will do, but later on you'd see, kailan kaya ako pwedeng mag-adapt, o kaya mag-create? Of course, the choice will always be yours, okay? Now, let's have a rundown of how do I deliver course material, course content through instructional materials. So I have here a rundown of the materials that I personally use to deliver content. So first, of course, very popular are the printed materials. These printed materials can be in the form of a syllabus, lesson assignment or files, rubrics, handouts, or any published content. Hindi ko na po isa-isahin yan, alam niyo na po what printed materials are. So here, on the screen, nako, sanay lang po, ililipat ko po sa kabilang computer yung, sorry, hindi ko po masusulatan kung nandito siya sa kabila kong computer. Sorry po, isa-stop share ko po muna. Kailangan ko po siya malipat sa kabila. Okay, in a while. Nakikita niyo po, naka-full screen po siya.
Nakikita, miss, pero hindi siya naka-full screen.
Hindi siya naka-full screen. Kailangan po, pasensya na nililipat. Kailangan ko po siya ilipat kasi hindi siya nandito siya sa desktop. Hindi siya. Okay, naman. Ayaw. Hindi pa rin po siya naka-full screen.
Hindi pa.
Ayan po.
Hindi pa.
Hindi pa rin. Lang. Stop share. Kailangan ko siya talaga ibalik. Sige, hindi na lang ako magsusunod. Pasensya na po ha. Kasama po talaga yan sa mga i-anticipate po natin. Ayan po. Yep, ayan po. Balik po tayo doon. So here, in the printed materials, you are seeing on the screen po a sample syllabus. Actually, the syllabus is in a file format here. Nandiyan na po ang syllabus. That can be one of your printed materials, of course. Course content is where you know what the syllabus is. And I have highlighted here some of the tools in Canvas that you can use, maximize, to load your printed materials. So In my case, ang pinakagamit na gamit ko po is modules because we are using the modular approach. So we load everything through modules, and that's where assignments are created, rubrics are created, even the files are uploaded. So itong mga naka-highlight po, these are tools that you can use in uploading your printed material. So what other materials can you use to deliver content? You know this one, digital media or recorded lectures. What are the examples? Could be movies, TV clips, YouTube, podcasts, screencasts, TEDx talks. Ang podcast, I think you are familiar that these are audio recordings. Yung screencasts, ito yung kapag tawag mo doon, yung video siya, halimbawa may nasa computer ka, you want to what you call this, to video record what you are doing, tapos sabayan mo siya ng iyong explanations. And of course, kasama po dito are yung course introduction videos. Ito po, very important po to, that you create your course introduction videos. Of course, you have an option to do it synchronously, but you also have to anticipate that there are students who might not be able to join your synchronous session. So a course introduction, a pre-recorded course introduction video where you introduce yourself is very important also for you to prepare. Ito po kasi yung unang-unang, di ba po, sa course introduction, ito yung unang-unang pagkakataon na mag-e-establish ka ng relationship with your class. So maganda na mapaghandaan talaga ng maayos para makilala ka ng estudyante. At the same time, maintindihan nila as what you expect from them in the course and what they should expect from the course. So here, I have here an example. Usually po kapag digital media recorded lectures, you make use of files, for example, for uploading. So I have here an example of a file, an uploaded video. So I consider this a supplementary material. So pag nilagay mo siya doon sa files, so this is how it looks like. Pasok na po yung video. Papasok lang naman po yung URL dyan. You just have to drag and drop. And then when you click it, you have a video already in your Canvas. So makikita niyo po na all the instructional materials, the rundown of instructional materials that I'm providing you right now, we're doing our best to find a way on how you should integrate it in your LMS. Another way also for you to make use of recorded lectures, yung mga recorded lectures po, pwede po kayo through Pages. Ito po, ako personally, I haven't used this one, but I intend to use it in the next, actually sa September, sa last module ko, I intend to use Pages. I just find it very interesting. The Pages of Canvas is very interesting in a way that you're allowed to video record yourself also. So, ayan po, tinry ko yan. Pasensya lang po ang kalat ko sa bahay. Yan, may ganyan po siya. Hindi ko po isa-isahin yung proseso ng paggamit ng Canvas because I think you will have a different session on that one. I'm just showing you what are the opportunities for you to create what we call this instructional materials within the LMS that you've chosen. So you can start recording. You can either record media or upload media in your Canvas account. So halimbawa, mga lectures nyo po, pwede na po kayo dito. Hindi na po kailangan maghanap pa ng iba pong platforms. Yeah. Another form of material that you can use, of course, is this is more of creating most of the time. Our presentation materials like lecture notes or PowerPoint or Prezi. Here's an example of what I did in my class. Simple lang po ito. Dito yung makita po, hindi naman po ako kailangan sobrang techie. Kahit paano, nakaka-deliver pa rin ng content. At mukhang malinaw naman siya. So let's just watch it a bit. So this is just a PowerPoint presentation with a narration.
Wala siyang audio, Jonna.
Yeah. Ay, walang audio. Kailangan po atang, sandali lang po in-embed ko kasi siya. Ilalabas ko po In-embed ko po kasi siya. Kaya hindi siya lumalabas. Stop share. So, yan po. Actually, it's just a PowerPoint presentation. Tapos, mawawala yun. This is a PowerPoint presentation. Tapos ginawa ko lang din po siya sa PowerPoint, syempre. At meron lang siyang voiceover. Nandun na rin po siya sa PowerPoint. May narration na po siya. Parang lecture na rin po siya. Tingnan niyo po ah. Ayan, share computer of sound.
Good evening.
Nakita niyo po?
We begin Module 3 by introducing basic concepts of materials development.
Yes, okay.
Materials development is highly dependent on what we know as to how learners acquire a second language. Our instructional decisions as language teachers, what to teach and how to teach it, reflects our assumptions on how language is acquired and learned. This only shows that our discussion.
Ano pong maganda sa mga PowerPoint presentations with voice-over narrations? Mas mapaghahandaan mo pong bilang teacher yung i-explain mo. We have just simply to admit that even during lectures in class, for example, yung mga spontaneous lectures natin, may mga pagkakataon po talaga na medyo naliligaw tayo sa usapan. But in this case, given that you prepare ahead of time. So, na-filter out mo na ano lang ba talagang gusto mo sabihin sa mga bata, sa mga estudyante. So, mas na-maximize po natin yung oras din natin. Well, I'll go back to mine. Okay. So, that's another material, presentation materials. Of course, another form of material is expert interviews or guest speaker recordings. For example, in my class 2 weeks ago, I invited a curriculum expert to talk about curriculum design. On the screen, actually, we are inviting you also. You might be interested. It's open to the public. Nakikita niyo po sa screen, ano? Another way to deliver course content is through expert interviews, of course. So in our case, for my class, we have on August 15, conversations on curriculum design and materials development. So itong mga to, these are all what we call this, they serve as instructional materials, but at the same time as strategies in our course. And then another material that you can use are student-created content in the form of wikis. You're familiar with Wikipedias. These are collaboratively done content. Of course, students can collaborate working on it. Even teachers can also participate. In your Canvas account, there's the pages. I did mention to you the pages section earlier. The pages tool. You can actually create content through the pages tool. Okay po? Here. I have here an example. I just got this from the internet. I haven't used Pages yet. I'm supposed to use it this September. So in the Pages tool, you can actually put text and at the same time embed media in it. So pwede po siyang halimbawa, yung parang you can create study guides within the Pages. Even your lecture notes can be included, and at the same time you embed videos or what other form of multimedia resource that you have, you can actually embed it in the pages. At ang maganda po dito ay pwede pong mag-comment yung mga bata. They can collaborate in the, what we call this, in the pages itself, in the creation of the content of the pages itself. So you try to explore through that, that feature po. Of course, another material is the use is our open educational resources. I will not dwell on this one because I know that UP is in the forefront of providing what we call this resources, open educational resources. So I think you know that CHED already what we call this has launched its OER. Isa po kayo sa mga nasa taas, yung inyo pong UPOU Commons. So here's ako po isa po sa mga nagagamit ko itong Merlot. So this is one of the OERs abroad. Yan. So di ba parang ang dali lang po. Actually, the materials are there for us to use. This is a matter of how we use them. Okay? Yun kasi yung pinakatanong doon, how we will use it. So easy peasy. But of course, we know that knowing where to get these materials, knowing what these materials are, it's just the beginning of the story. The most crucial question is, how do we use them to deliver course content? And how do we use them effectively? That's why the second question that I would want to answer is that, what should you be looking for when you adopt, adapt, or design a material? So this one, with my experience, I felt that there are 3 criteria that we have to look for whenever we are selecting and at the same time designing materials. You look into quality of the material, you look into variety of the materials that you're using, and of course, and I think most importantly, interactivity of the material, because this will set the tone as to how engaging your learning, the learning that will take place in the classroom. So whenever we talk about quality, just ask these questions to yourself. How does this material address the objectives of the course and or the objectives, for example, if you're using a module? I think you're going to adopt a module type of instruction. So how is the material addressing the objectives? Crucial po yun. Hindi pwedeng, alam po natin, hindi pwedeng kung ano-ano lang ang pwedeng gamitin sa classroom. Will the students learn through the use of the material? Napaka-importanting tanong po, matututo po ba talaga ang bata sa binigay nating material o pinahihirapan lang natin sila? Please add also a question if it promotes the 4 C's. Will it promote critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, communication? How does the material address the objectives of the course or the objectives of the module, for example, if you're doing a module? So crucial po yun. Kailangan yung material po natin, tama po talaga, o talagang align po siya sa objectives po ng course po natin. Will the students learn through the use of the material? I think we all agree that this is a very important question. Will it also promote 4 C's among students: critical thinking, creativity, communication, and collaboration? Huwag po natin sayangin yung oportunidad na yun na once we have a learning material, be it an adopted, or a created learning material, isabay na po natin yung tanong kung ito ba, does it allow 4 C's to be enhanced or to be developed? Will the material help my students succeed in the course assessments? We do know that the best measure of learning is whether our students are actually succeeding in the assessments that we prepare for them for our course. Talaga yun ang measure din ng ating learning, kung talaga natuto nga naman talaga ang bata sa klase natin. I also added here, in terms of quality, every time we talk about quality of instructional materials, we look into the study time or the workload that goes along with the instructional material that we assign to our students. So here, I've posted, you're seeing on the screen, one PubMat from a big university in Manila. Naglabas sila ng mga PubMats on tips for freshies, yung mga freshman students. And then one of my former students reposted it and said, thank you, but also help us not to be glued to the screen 24/7. This is where the biggest challenge also of online learning comes in. Yung trabaho, yung bigat ng trabaho that goes along with the instructional materials and the tasks in the instructional materials. Gaano kadami oras ng estudyante ang kakainin niya? And at the same time, crucial question that you ask yourselves, gaano kadami din na oras ang kakainin niya sa pag-check po natin at pagbigay ng feedback sa ibinibigay natin through the instructional materials. And I think these are important questions that we have to foresee. We have to ask ourselves before we decide and design our instructional materials. I think the UPLB has a policy as to how you will compute for the workload of the students, especially now in the new normal. Meron pong workload calculator na, for example, in a 3-unit subject, gaano kadami dapat yung work hours or study hours ng bata na i-google niya sa 3-hour subject. That would include both synchronous and asynchronous sessions. So, sana po mapaghandaan natin din yun ng maayos. Because it all would spell out quality of the materials that we provide to our students. The second criteria is variety. I have here an example of a syllabus, my syllabus in curriculum design and materials development. So at the start, before the start of the course, I personally do this to make sure that may, kahit paano, may iba-iba naman po ang ma-experience ng bata sa klase ko, lalo na po that we're doing it full online. So, for example, in this course, Curriculum Design and Materials Development, I have identified 3 learning outcomes. The learning outcomes actually are divided into the 3 modules of the course also. So, for example, the first learning outcome is to conduct a curriculum analysis. So, with this learning outcome, ano yung mga materials na ginamit ko? So, I have a printed material. I have a journal article reading about curriculum. And then I have questions that go along with the journal reading. Then I also made use of a presentation material. I told you earlier that 2 weeks ago, I invited a curriculum expert to talk more about curriculum development in the perspective or in the light of a new normal. And then I made use of an online resource. So here, for the first learning outcome, naka-4 ako. This spanned for around 3 weeks, parang 3 weeks po to sa aking syllabus. Then my second learning outcome, ano naman po yung mga ginamit ko? Ganyan lang po, pinaplot lang po siya para makita mo rin, nako, parang laging may printed materials. Of course, in grad school, medyo staple, medyo ano po to, medyo kailangan po talaga na meron pong journal article readings. Kaya most of the time, we do have what's called this printed materials for each of the learning outcomes. Ako personally, I really make sure that students read most of the time. But at the same time, I can diversify the other instructional materials that I use in class. So if I'm for the learning outcome 3, I can do a case study I can give a case study for my students before they can create an instructional material. So this is something that you can do on your own. It doesn't need to be required by your supervisors. Pero at least ikaw din, nakikita mo, ay, at least medyo may variety naman po ang ino-offer ko sa mga bata. Makikita niyo po, hindi po siya ganun ka-sophisticated. Even the instructional materials that I'm using, simple lang po talaga siya. But what I'm sharing to you really are just practical and manageable tips that you can actually adopt in your own classes. And the third criteria is interactivity. This is where engagement of students are expected to really come in. In discussing interactivity, I would want to highlight the 3 types of interaction where instruction or learning can take place. So we're familiar with this visual. The interaction between the student and content. Student can learn by interacting with content, specifically in the form of the learning or instructional materials. Of course, student and teacher interaction, definitely learning should take place. Student and students, this is where collaborative work comes in. And of course, learning is also expected to happen. For learner to student or learner to content, student to content, we do know on a regular school day that that the learner should not just passively go through the material, but they are expected to solve problems, make decisions, look for pieces of information, test assumptions, and take risks. Take note that this also happens on a normal classroom environment. Every time we give instructional materials to our students, andun po yung expectation na syempre dapat po natututo yung interaction nila with the content allows them to do these, cognitive demands. Okay po? What I have to focus now this time, alam ko po, alam nyo na po yun. Marami po sa inyo, matagal na po talaga natuturo. So definitely, every time you design instructional materials, you know that it's purposeful and you make sure that students learn from the material that we give them. But how can we increase interactivity with our materials using technological tools this time? I think ito yung bagong mukha ngayon. One of my most favorite, strategy in incorporating interactivity in instructional materials is through active reading via annotation. So here, I'll show you a video on how it's specifically done in Canvas.
Hey everybody,
Can
Dominic
you hear
here.
it, sir? May audio po.
And I want to talk to you about
Okay.
Hypothesis, which is a collaborative annotation tool. Now, I think we all know what annotations are. We can highlight text in a web page or an article and leave some notes on the sidebar. Well, Hypothesis allows us to do this in a collaborative way, which means that when I go to leave annotations, I can actually see the other annotations that other people have left. And I can even comment on their annotations, give them feedback, maybe answer their questions. Now, Hypothesis is a tool that's actually built into Canvas, and we actually have it available across all of CVTC. So let me show you how it works really quick. So right now I'm in a module in my Canvas course. I'm going to click the plus symbol to make a new assignment. And in the assignment settings, under submission type, I'm going to select External Tool. I'll click on the Find button, and then I'm going to scroll down until I find Hypothesis right there. I'll click on that, and it's going to ask me what web page or document do I want people to annotate over top of. Now, I can include a URL. So if I have a website, so for example, here is a Wikipedia article on Bitcoin, I can actually copy that URL, go back to Canvas, click on Enter URL, paste it in, and hit Submit. Okay, I'll scroll down to the bottom, hit Select, and then I'll scroll down to the bottom here and click on Save and Publish. And you'll see that now the Wikipedia article is actually embedded into my Canvas assignment. And over here on the right is the Hypothesis sidebar. I can click on this little arrow here if I want to hide it and see more of the article. But here's where the magic really happens. As I'm going through this article, I can actually highlight some text. And when I do so, you'll see a little pop-up that says Annotate. I click on Annotate, and then I can actually leave a text comment here. And when I'm done, click on Post. And this leaves that annotation on the document. Now, if someone else comes into this assignment, they're going to see my annotation, and they can even reply to it. So here I am logged in as another student, and you can see that over here on the right-hand side, I can see the comment that someone left. I can even click on that comment, and that will jump me down to that part of the web page. Then I can click on the reply button and give a reply to that person, and click on Post. I should mention that your replies can also include hyperlinks or even images if you so desire. Now, if you are using Hypothesis as an assignment, you can actually use SpeedGrader to see the annotations that students have left. So I can click on SpeedGrader up here in the top right as an instructor. And just like normal, in the top right, I can cycle through different students. But over here, I can see the Hypothesis window, and I can see all of the comments that the particular student I'm looking at right now has left. I can click on that comment and it will jump me down to that part of the web page. I could then enter in a grade right here, leave any comments that are private to just the student if I wanted to. I could even reply to the student in Hypothesis right here if I wanted to as well. Click on Submit, and that grade is recorded. Now, I just showed you how you can use Hypothesis to put web pages into your Canvas course, but you can actually also pull in PDFs from your Google Drive. I'll also mention that Hypothesis doesn't have to be an assignment in your course. It could be an ungraded activity. If you want to do that, in the module, I can click on the plus symbol. In the drop-down here, I'll select External Tool. And now I'll do the same thing I did before. I'll locate Hypothesis, click on that. And now this time, instead of selecting a web page, I'm actually going to select a PDF from my Google Drive. So I'll click on this. I'll select the PDF that I want and hit select. I can give this page a different name, and then I'll click on Add Item. Now I can click on this page that I just created, and you will see that Hypothesis is now wrapped around this page as well. Whether it's a PDF from my Google Drive or a web page that you can access online, either way, you and your students can be doing annotations collaboratively together using Hypothesis. So, like I said, this is a tool that's available to all faculty in CVTC's.
So that's one way of making your instructional materials more interactive.
Hey,
another more popular way is to, of course, maximize your discussions tool in your Canvas account. You engage students in a discussion forum. For example, in my case, I have here in one of the first few meetings that we had, I posted the common academic writing errors. These are actually actual samples, written samples from my students in the past. So I asked them, read the following sentences, for example, what's wrong or missing. So I have here the sample sentences, and they are expected in the discussion forum to reply, to discuss the answers to these questions. So for example, one of my students said, here are my thoughts for number 6. Actually, in the discussion forum instruction itself, I told them, I you can only choose 3 questions to answer, and make sure I also clarified how many contributions are expected from them for them to earn a grade. So ito yung sagot sa mga bata. Yan. Actually, what we did in here is that after the discussion forum, I had to make sure that there's a wrap-up, a session for this one. So the wrap-up session can be done synchronously, or you can also do it in the discussion forum itself. Of course, given that there are really specific answers or correct answers to the questions that I raised, kailangan po talaga ma-verify if the students' contributions are correct or not. Also in the discussion forum, ito mas popular to sa discussion forums, yung core concept questions po, making use of core concept questions. So recently, I had these questions posted in the discussion forum. For example, we're done with our lectures and our learning activities on curriculum design and development. So we ended with questions on who should take part in the design and development of a curriculum, how important is it for a teacher to take an active role or to take active role, in the curriculum design and development, and what problems may arise if teachers are excluded from the process. So you can just simply post this in your forum and ask students to reply. Pero syempre po, majority of our students are not so, familiar with how a discussion forum works. So here's a tip. This is what I use in class. You do a 3-part post. You tell your students to do a 3-part post. So for example, the first part, you ask them, state what you consider thought or recommendation might be. In other words, answer the question, what do you think about the question? Why you think about it? Why you think what you think? And state what you wish to know or what problem or challenge will follow or result from the original questions. These are some of the questions that you can ask your students to, guide questions that they can use in posting in the discussion forum. And of course, the question is, do you grade discussion forum postings? I really encourage that you do. It doesn't, by the way, discussion forum can be done synchronously or asynchronously. It won't eat too much bandwidth. It won't consume too much bandwidth on the end of the students. That's why we encourage you to really grade the discussion forum postings, because this becomes a measure that students are learning through that discussion forum. Your discussion forum becomes your learning material, instructional material as well. So here's an example of a rubric. Marami pong rubrics available on the internet on how you should be, how you should be grading discussion forum postings. This came from Watcher and Conrad 2016. So yan po. So you look not only into timeliness and quantitative discussion or contributions, the responsiveness, yan po yung mga characteristics. Yan. Yan po pwede niyo pong tignan. Another one, this one po, I haven't used it yet in my class. But then I decided to share it with you because personally I intend to use it as well because it's very interesting. How to do video and audio collaboration via Canvas Studio. So this is where teachers and students can actually collaborate. Even students among themselves can collaborate. Tingnan po ninyo ha.
Hi, I'm Eddie Small, the CTE Innovation Coach here at Central 9 Career Center in Greenwood, Indiana. I'm a former video and audio production teacher at the high school level, and the last few years I've really been focused on providing engaging audio and video content for students on platforms that facilitate all types of learning. So I'm really excited about Studio for Canvas, which kind of prompted me to create this video so I can share that passion with other educators, whether that be educators that are evaluating the tool or people that might be looking for something similar that they could integrate with Canvas, or if they're not Canvas users at all and are really stuck on e-learning. As someone who's tried every fad or fly-by-night video engagement tool, I really can honestly say that in the early stages here with our Canvas integration, Studio has knocked this one out of the park for us. The ability to screen record, webcam record, add videos directly from our computers, or even paste YouTube videos directly in as well. So I wanted to give you a quick peek at what Studio looks like for those districts that aren't using it just quite yet. The ability to record up here at the top right-hand corner, to screen capture or webcam record, is invaluable for all of those teachers that are a little bit nervous about creating their own content and doing some serious video production. You can also add videos directly from your computer, kind of a drag and drop option. You can even use YouTube videos, all those videos you're constantly searching for in your institution. I know we have a number of teachers that have links for their YouTube videos that they can just paste right into their Studio instance and use those in their Canvas courses. Again, invaluable for our educators. For this instance, I'm going to drag in a lab video we created for one of our automotive instructors. I can just open up my Finder and even drag and drop this video directly into Canvas, or I can browse files and then upload the media. Once it processes, you'll now have the ability to do multiple actions inside the video. And let me say, that processing piece really is slick and moves very quickly. I think we're all familiar with the YouTube processing speeds and the ability to upload content into LMSs, and the process of moving a 3 or 4 minute video into Studio is very quick and something that I really enjoy. So now that we have processed the video, we have the ability to do those multiple actions inside that video, and I will click here to show you what that looks like. And in fact, adding details, tagging comments, checking the insights and the analytics of the video, who has watched the video. It's all baked in to the Canvas LMS. And this is really where I think Studio checks a lot of boxes when it comes to accessibility, the closed captioning that is provided directly inside the media. Here I'll say the language spoken is English, and then I will request that those captions are auto-magically generated inside Canvas, and once queued, will be available to review and publish for you to make quick edits. In this case, the word desk should be disc, and then I can publish those changes, and that closed captioning is now tagged inside that video. You also have the ability to share, whether that is inside of a public link or your institution, with people directly inside your Canvas domain. And now on to my favorite part of the Canvas instance of Studio, which is the ability to create quizzes. Now, by selecting the option dots, you will see what I believe is the game changer for a lot of teachers that are struggling with creating e-learning content or any online development when it comes to video production. The ability to create a quiz based on that video without having to create more supplemental material. So from here, we can create and develop an assessment directly tied to the video, giving it a quiz title and entering a description. If you're concerned that students won't consume the entire media, my recommendation is hide those question marks for students so they don't skip ahead. Once you've added those basic elements to confirm the video quiz settings and you hit Get Started, you can then select the precise moment you'd like to prompt the students to answer key questions by selecting the plus button at the bottom of the timeline. Now, currently you have 3 options: multiple choice, true, false, or multiple answer. This thing is incredible. It's easy to use, it's multifunctional. There aren't a whole lot of tools that come along that allow for such a low barrier of entry. And I honestly think this is the one tool that I can show educators and watch their fears about creating video content melt away immediately. So with that, thanks for coming to my TED Talk about Studio inside Canvas. I'm always open to share my experiences and trainings with anyone on this tool because I'm so impressed with it, especially in the
Okay. Now we move on to additional strategies that you can actually use in your classes. Here, the first strategy among all the strategies, personally, I feel that the first strategy that should be presented is really how you should make your expectations explicit. How I do it, for students to easily understand what they expect from them, I always present the learning objectives or the learning outcomes of the course through a graphical overview. So here's an example of a graphical overview that I use in my class. So first day of class pa lang, kitang-kita na ng bata. Sa entire school, sa entire term, what are we expecting from them? So halata na we have divided it into 3 modules. Malinaw din anong hinihingi sa kanila about isang module, that's the learning outcome. And I decided to put in the topics, or the major topics that will be discussed. So malinaw na malinaw po siya. So even in the Canvas account, in the students' Canvas account, makikita na nila from the first day, lahat ng mga dahilan dun po ang syllabus, naka-plot na po ang syllabus ng modules are uploaded already. So there's already a listing of all the submissions that they have to complete during the term. This makes, interaction and clarifying expectations with the students way easier. Kasi talagang habang maaga pa lang, malinaw na siya. And of course, at the start of each module, we know that there's an expectation on our end to explain to them what is the modular assessment for that particular learning outcome. Second strategy, of course, is that you have to choose your materials and your strategies purposefully. I'm only showing you the thinking process that we all should have whenever we choose a material or a strategy in our online classes. Actually, even not in the online classes, even in a regular class, you know that this should be in place. So you always have to clarify with yourself what do you want to achieve by in the first place. For example, you want your students to collaborate, to discuss and compose. What instructional materials or probably strategies can I use? From the list of what we had earlier, perhaps I can ask my students to create a wiki. Or I can ask students to create documents via cloud sharing technologies like Google Docs. Alam niyo po na pwede tayong mag-collaborate in the creation of documents through Google Docs. Tanong, yung itong examples ba ng strategies na to, will it achieve what I want my students to achieve? Yes. So ganyan po sana tayo mag-isip din in terms of deciding as to what material or strategy. For example, you want your students to provide a carefully argued analysis. So you can ask them to read critically published material, listen to lectures. Of course, the list is, there's a long list for this one. What I'm just trying to show you is the process itself that you have to go through as teachers. And all of these should come in during the preparation stage for your course. Answer questions about topic, ito po ang mga pwede kong gamitin. Okay? So what I just want to highlight here is that before you decide on what instructional material to adapt or create or strategy that you want to use in class, please clarify yourself first. What is it that you want to achieve and how is this aligned with the objectives of your course? Third strategy, of course, is to provide regular and substantive feedback. Alongside with this one is strategy number 4, where we are expected to provide structured help sessions. So even in in a regular school year, we do know that providing regular and substantive feedback is still one of the most critical and meaningful way of teaching students or for instruction to take place. This is how this strategy is very dear to me because personally as a teacher, I really give premium to the feedback that I give to students, especially that I teach writing most of the time. Kilala ko ng mga estudyante ko na every time nagpapasa sila, talagang I take time in going through their work and I really do my best to provide substantive feedback to their writing. Why? Kasi naniniwala ako na yung personal feedback mo sa bata, mas matindi po mas mataas po ang chance na matututo yung bata doon kasi nga nakikita niya na binasa talaga ni teacher yung ginawa niya. So even in the online, in an online classroom, mas critical ngayon ang ating feedback kasi nga, syempre, kailangan mas maramdaman ng bata na nandyan tayo. Alam po natin na ang reklamo lagi ng bata ngayon ay wala naman yung teacher namin hindi naman namin hindi namin siya ma-reach out. Okay, wala kami naririnig sa kanya. Sobrang hirap po nun. Magiging difficult po yun the end of the students, even you as a teacher, also in getting your students' attention and establishing relationship with them. So crucial po na sa simula pa lang, first meeting pa lang, malinaw. How will you be providing feedback to them? How often will it be? That's why I told you earlier, it's what do you call this? It's connected to strategy number 4, where you provide structured help or help sessions. Crucial po sana na magbigay po tayo ng consultation schedules din. I'm not sure as to what will be UPLB's policy on the use on synchronous and asynchronous classes, but definitely policy of one. Pero dapat po tayong mga teachers, syempre, mas maging open po tayo in the consultations of students given that they are not in school. Kasama po dito, dapat malinaw po kung anong platforms din na gagamitin natin. We are encouraged as much as possible to maximize the LMS that we have as a communication platform. Iwasan yung gamitin yung iba. Halimbawa, kahit yung direct email, in our case, discourage namin yung estudyante to directly email us because it could really flood the faculty's email. So you use the canvas in communicating to your teacher. Question is, as a teacher, syempre, kailangan you regularly log in. Ako, in my case, every morning at 8 o'clock, I log into my, I keep a Canvas account, and at the same time, I have a Google Classroom in Saints ko. So every morning yun, talagang check ko, ano na ba ang meron? May mga updates ba coming from the students that I have, etc. So yun, ano siya, very structured talaga siya. It doesn't need to take too much of your time. Siguro 30 to 1 hour a day will do already in checking your, in your LMS. And we now move on to our last question. Will I be doing synchronous or asynchronous learning? Actually po, lahat po ng ibinigay ko po sa inyo kanina na mga instructional materials, of course, they can take the form of strategies already. They can be done synchronously or asynchronously. Depende po sa decision nyo kung paano nyo po siya gagawin. Siyempre, dapat malinaw po. What do you mean by synchronous or asynchronous? Actually, ang pinagkaiba lang naman po ay kung kailan po natututo yung bata. When is learning happening? In synchronous, we know that students learn at the same time. The communication happens in real time. And it allows for instant feedback and clarification. Kaya po pumapasok sa video conferencing, live chat, live stream videos, etc. Pero ang tanong po, for example, discussion forum, can it be done synchronously? Yes po, as long as sabay-sabay po kayo nandun. Synchronous pa rin po ang learning na nangyayari doon. However, asynchronous sessions is different in a way that, syempre, mas controlled ng bata this time yung learning time niya. Communication is live and possibly more convenient and flexible and allows students to work at their own pace. Ito po ang laging tanong, I think pinagdedebatihan ng mga eskwelahan, lalo na po sa basic ed po, kasi nga talagang medyo challenging din po ang pagkumbinsi namin sa mga magulang that online learning or specifically distance learning can work. So, merong mentality po ang ibang magulang po natin na para po maging sulit ang tuition fee ng estudyante namin, kailangan mas maraming oras po ang synchronous. Yung gusto nila na naka-video conference lagi yung estudyante at saka yung teacher kasi feeling nila yung po talaga ang pag-aaral na sinasabi. But I've been explaining to parents that yes, for example, in our case, we are launching a full online program. So there really is an expectation that students should have internet connection, be it limited or a strong internet connection. You have to have internet. Kasi yun po talaga ang na-identify na profile ng estudyante namin. Sige, okay na po yun, malinaw na po yun. Pero, we were explaining to them also that you cannot just simply say na kailangan 8 hours or 6 hours. I've seen other schools, basic ed schools, doing 6 hours a day of synchronous class as in talagang nasa harapan ng computer si teacher at saka si bata. Ang tanong doon, kailangan po ba talaga ng ganung kahaba? Our decision on whether we are to do synchronous and asynchronous learning must be grounded on the instructional design itself. Ano po bang instructional design na ina-adapt ng eskwelahan po ninyo? Here, I'm showing an example. This came from another school. This is not ours. Meron din kaming ganito. Kaya kasi mahaba kasi yung description namin kaya hindi ko sinama. But we're using also 5E. Here, it uses 5E's instructional design, engage, explore, explain. So makikita nyo po dito, ganito po nila kalinaw ginawa. So kung ito po ang stage ng lesson, malinaw po yan, may offline work, anong ginagawa. This already suggests kung magsisynchronous o mag-asynchronous sila. Sa kanila, they did it by identifying if it's with your teacher or not. So for example, dahil sa engage, ito po ang expectation sa part ng lesson na to. they are recommending that there's no need to do it synchronously. So hindi kailangan na live ang session, class session nila. For Explore, kasi nga, this is the time the students actively explore concepts, knowledge. This is where students really interact with content or the learning materials. So, hindi pa kailangan talaga ng synchronous session dito. But definitely, teacher support needs to be available at this point in time. Pero hindi kailangan talaga na magkaharap sila or live yung communication nila. And then, of course, you have the explain part dito because students are asked to synthesize new knowledge, ask questions if they need further clarification. From the stage of the lesson itself, it's clear that there will be a need for a synchronous class, for synchronous session or a live class. Teachers' responsibility here is to make sure that the constructed knowledge of the student is correct and process also whatever it is that was encountered with the students when she or he interacts with the material. So, pwede po siyang synchronous na siya. Siyempre, tanong po dyan, pwede po bang asynchronous din yan? Nasa inyo din po yan. There are a lot of strategies that can be done synchronously or asynchronously. Halimbawa, ito, yung synthesizing new knowledge, you can still do this asynchronously. You can still correct students' knowledge asynchronously. Not a problem. But of course, if you want from time to time to see your students also, and the students naman have the means to be part of your synchronous class, you can actually have it at this part of the lesson. For elaborate, ito, they're suggesting na hindi na kailangan. Evaluate, perhaps kailangan, minsan baka hindi na siya kailangan. What's the point of this part? Basically is that when you decide on whether you're doing synchronous or asynchronous learning, it should just, the main basis should really be, what's the instructional design that you're adopting as a teacher? For example, I have here a sample material from our learning module on purposive communication. We used the 4A model of instruction. So each lesson is divided into 4 activities. Ayan. So learners activate prior knowledge. This is the application, the analysis part for activity 2, where they analyze various multimodal text. For activity 3, they're asked to abstract. And for activity 4, there's an application expectation from the students. So, for example, in this lesson, the fundamentals of effective communication, ito po ang aming objectives. So these are the objectives. So if you go through the activity, this is how it looks like. So ang tanong, given this activity, do you need to meet your students synchronously? Hindi na. Pwede na po siyang sagutan ng bata on his or her own. Students is asked to email, a friend or an unknown employer right after he or she saw the feed from Facebook on an invitation to a tutorial. So, kailangan po bang synchronous? Hindi naman din. Pwede pong gawin na ito ng estudyante on his or her own time. Then we move on to activity 2. Student is asked to describe the content of the emails that he or she has written according to the content, the elements that shapes the content of any message, yung purpose, audience, tone. Kailangan ba na synchronous pa siya? Hindi na. Pwede naman po siyang asynchronous na gawin. Magagawa pa rin po siya ng bata. Now, included in activity 2 is a discussion as to how similar or different are the 2 emails. You can do this synchronously. Pwede nyo pag-usapan as a class. But pwede rin nyo naman po siyang gawin as a discussion forum lang and do it asynchronously. Okay po? Siyempre, pag tinanong po, we are really expected na as much as possible, we really explore more time of asynchronous learning for our students because it's not only your students' internet connection, but of course, we do know the internet infrastructure of the country as well. Marami pong issues talaga on internet connection. So, doing it asynchronously. And at the same time, hindi lang po internet connection, syempre, yung bata din po, their home situations may be varied. And respecting their time, kung kailan po nila gagawin. Of course, sa inyo po, mas adult po ang learners ninyo compared sa mga basic ed namin. Mas structured kasi sa basic ed kasi these are formative years. But in your case, mas matatanda na po yan. Hopefully, mas self-regulated na po sila. So, we give them that self-paced impression that they can do the work at their own time. So this one, you can do it synchronously or asynchronously, your choice. Then we move on to activity 3. Di ba? Tapos na po sila mo, for example, mag-plot po ng, pag nag-describe ng emails nila. We ask them to evaluate their emails based on the criteria of effective communication. What I'm showing you is definitely an instructional material. This is a learning module, a course module. So makikita mo as to how the module itself is interacting with the student. Sige, rate mo. The student is being asked, sige, you rate your work, your email. And then there's a group discussion here, a group work. Of course, you have collaborative tools that you can use for the students to be able to accomplish this group work. Ang tanong, synchronous or asynchronous, this can be done asynchronously. This can be done synchronously as well. Pero syempre, I would prefer that this should be done asynchronously kasi kaya naman po talaga siyang gawin asynchronously. When you decide also for synchronous session, syempre, you have to be mindful also yung screen time ng bata. Hindi naman po talaga tayo, hindi natin kaya talaga magtagal. 3 hours nga lang po na nasa ganito po tayo. Medyo hirap na po talaga din tayo magtanda. For activity 4, they're asked to create a LinkedIn account. Actually, ito po, pwede rin po nilang gawin asynchronous pa rin. Okay? So, nasa inyo po yun, depende po sa instructional design ninyo. And at the same time, your decision as a teacher, sa palagay nyo ba kailangan namin magkita ng bata? So, maganda na may schedule po kayo. For example, in my class po, I tell them that every meeting, we at least allocate 1 hour of synchronous session. But make sure that it's in their schedule already. But of course, there are times na hindi po siya kailangan talaga na mag-synchronous kami. So talagang beforehand, students are informed that no, we're not meeting for this Saturday, for example, because there's a synchronous work that you should be doing on your own. Pwede pong ganon. Pero maganda lang po na mag-set na po kayo talaga malinaw at the start of the course na meron po anticipate synchronous sessions. The final message on synchronous and asynchronous learning is that they must complement each other. And please take note that the design of the instruction must accommodate the lowest common denominator. And in this case, those students who have really limited internet connection. Okay po. There are advocates of asynchronous sessions. Sana mas maraming, actually talagang majority ng sessions will be done asynchronously. If it's possible, please do. But of course, it still depends on the policy of the university, especially if you feel that meron po kasi mga tasks talaga na kailangan din synchronous. Merong halimbawa, lalo na minsan yung mga simulations, yung mga assessments na kailangan talaga nakikita ng teacher na ginagawa ng bata hands-on, pwede mo pong gawing synchronous din po yung mga yon. So here, syempre ang tanong po doon, if wala tayong problema if the internet connection of the student is reliable, so you really can do synchronous session. But the question is if the internet connection is not reliable, if it's limited, how can you still make sure that the learning opportunities of those with reliable internet connection is the same with those with limited internet connection? So here is a grid where you can see the instruction is mostly offline. You can also have printed materials from them. You can do additional learning materials saved in USB if it's possible. I think you've seen one big university yesterday went viral because they were sending USBs already to students who had limited internet connection. Of course, if you are still to do synchronous classes, please record it and upload it in the LMS so that students who were not able to join your synchronous class can also view it at their own time. At saka syempre, mas bababa po yung bandwidth na kinakain kapag dinownload or renew lang po nila yung inyong recording. Okay po? That's why this is where the issue, whether you're going to check attendance or not, of course, you shouldn't po. Synchronous classes should not be compulsory because there are so many factors that could affect students' attendance. Here are some of the touch points. And of course, for instructional support for those students with limited internet connection, ang kailangan lang po talaga natin gawin, yes, we're doing synchronous classes, but we also have to prepare a backup plan for students who cannot join our synchronous classes. So, ano yung mga strategies that you can use? There's so many. You can use low bandwidth solutions like cloud sharing technologies. You can also provide students feedback through podcast. Sinabi ko po kanina yung uploading ng recording of synchronous classes in your LMS. Okay po? But of course, the issues that you have to address here is that syempre medyo may challenge po siya for collaborative work. Kasi nga syempre hindi naman makakalabas yung mga bata talaga. It really will be done online. Clear guidelines on the schedule of teacher availability as teacher support. So even if it's done asynchronously po, ang importante po doon, malinaw po sa bata kung paano po nila kayo ma-reach out. And of course, you have to make yourself available also in helping students go through and succeed in their asynchronous tasks. So, questions that you have to ask yourself, what do you expect to accomplish in your synchronous class? Kung magde-decide po kayo, magkakaroon kayo ng synchronous class, what do you expect to accomplish? And then prepare as to how can these be accomplished synchronously, because you have to accommodate those with students with limited internet connection. And of course, you ask the question, what strategies or instructional materials or tools should you use given that you're doing it asynchronously? Okay po. I'd like to end with this expression that less is more, because I believe that this expression has become more relevant today. We know that this expression is important to us as educators even before the pandemic. But now, where everything is overwhelming, the work is overwhelming, this is the first webinar as a faculty, but then you'll have more webinars. I think some of you have been attending webinars already for the past months. Sobrang daming hinihingi sa atin. My personal advice as a teacher and as an administrator is that we need to step back a bit. We need to clarify our expectations with ourselves. Hindi po natin kailangan sampahan lahat at gawin lahat ng napanood at napakinggan natin sa mga webinars. We clarify our expectations with ourselves. We reconcile it with the expectations of the institution, of your college. And then you work from there. Sana po maalala po natin that at the end of the day, it's still all about quality. Ano po ang kalidad na ibinibigay natin, ang naihahanda natin para sa mga estudyante natin. So I hope that you remember that, especially during this pandemic, in the coming academic year, less definitely will be more. So maraming salamat. Yun lang po.
Okay. So thank you, Miss Jonna. Thank you.
Yes po. Questions?
Okay. Nabuhayan na ako na nawala kanina kasi natulog pa yung aking spirit. So anyway, maraming salamat. So this is now the time for us, my dear colleagues, to ask questions to Dr. Jonna. If you have some questions or give some comments, okay, anyone, or you can put your questions in the chat box. Or if you want to ask questions, you can just raise your hand or you can unmute yourself and then ask your question.
Gising pa po ba kayo?
Yeah. Thank you very much, Jonna. Thank you very much for sharing your experience at St. Scholastica and De La Salle University. Okay. So any question from our colleagues from the College of Human Ecology and from other colleges who are here with us now today? Anyone? Would like to ask the first question?
Tanong po o kaya insights you might want to share. This is a good opportunity for you to share also. I think some of you have more experience, especially in the use of in the designing of instructional materials. Given
Sir Greg?
Yes, Ma'am. Okay, Ma'am Laila. Okay. Yes, Ma'am Laila.
Yes.
Ma'am Jonna, thank you very much po sa lecture, for engaging us in your sa sharing po ninyo sa amin. Marami po kaming natutunan.
Thank you po.
Ang question ko po, 'di ba, sabi niyo nga po you are a faculty member also sa graduate students. So ano po yung less is more para sa inyo?
Una-una po talaga, simulan niyo po siya sa course, sa syllabus po ninyo. Bawasan po talaga. We really have to streamline. Kanina po yung sample ng course outcomes na binigay ko po sa inyo. Dati po, nasa 6 po yun. We significantly reduce it to 3 kasi we really have to anticipate also yung mga adjustments ng mga bata to online learning. Kasi ang pinaka I don't know if it holds true to your situation, but in my case, for example, isa sa mga pain points na nakita ko ng mga bata when we shifted to full online is that mas malaki expectations ngayon on the end of the students to learn on their own, to do self-regulated learning. At medyo masakit man aminin, pero medyo hindi pa po ganun kasanay ang mga estudyante natin, even in grad school. Most of the time, they just come to school, mauupo lang sa classroom, very passive learners sa loob ng classroom, minsan may magre-report, ganun yung mga usual na nangyayari. Pero ngayon kasi, the expectation is way higher on the end of the students. We give them instructional materials and they have to consume it on their own. Kaya ang sabi ko sa mga kasama ko, feeling ko ang magandang nangyayari sa pandemya lang na ngayon to, at the end of the year, if we do this right, feeling ko mas matalino ang mapuproduce nating mga estudyante. Kasi nga talagang mag-iisip sila at gagawa sila. So question, you start by streamlining first your course requirements. Tingnan niyo po kung paano niyo po kukumputin yung workload po ninyo. You have to anticipate this time given that you are to provide them more instructional materials to interact with. Gaano po kadaming oras ang kakainin nun sa bata? I think you will have a session on modular approach to instruction. I really would recommend that you adopt it kasi mas mabilis po siya. Actually, you do that in open universities. In your open university, mas hindi lang siya mas mabilis, mas madali po siyang ma-visualize ng bata kung anong ini-expect natin sa kanya at mas nadadirect po niya yung kanyang ginagawa on his and her own time. So I think yun po ang crucial po doon na magawa. Talagang magbabawas po talaga kayo ng gagawin. Actually, ang pagbabawas po hindi ibig sabihin na may masasacrifice po na learning on the end of the students. The challenge really is to find creative ways on how we can collapse, for example, competencies, how we can achieve the competencies in the shortest possible route. Yung ganun po, yung pinakamaikling daan para na matutunan pa rin ng bata yung gusto nating matutunan from us, matutunan pa rin nila yon. Pero this time, mas na po siya, mas intentional po dapat ang bawat instructional material, learning tasks that we provide to them para po mas mabilis po nila maabot yung ating sinet na expectations sa course. Did I answer your question, Miss?
Yes, thank you po.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so other questions, please? Or naka-enable na yata po yung ating chat box, just in
Bigyan
case.
ko po kayo example pala, nakalimutan ko. Halimbawa po yung example namin sa course sa Curriculum Materials and Design. Dati po, nanghihingi po kami ng needs analysis dyan. Isa po sa mga major requirement namin ay needs analysis. But when we were re-evaluating the course to streamline it for the new normal, we ask ourselves, among the learning outcomes, anong sa palagay namin yung pinaka-importante na even without the other outcomes, ito yung pinaka-importante outcomes na dapat makuha ng bata. So we decided na mas importante at this time that the students understand how to recalibrate syllabus given the new normal. They have to understand how to create modules kasi ito yun na talaga ang trend ngayon for the new normal. So doon kami nag-focus. So tapos yun na lang po, we drop all the others. We drop the needs analysis. So isa pa kami na-drop din doon. That's one way of streamlining it. So you really look into the terminal competencies of the course. And there, you work downwards or backwards pala. Yes, sir.
Okay, so any other questions from our colleagues?
Si Miss Bailey po, Miss Rhea, raised her hand.
Okay, Miss Bailey. Okay, Teacher Rhea, please.
Yes po, magandang umaga po sa lahat.
Hi, po.
Ma'am Jonna. Ma'am Jonna, ang question ko po ay, although sinasabi po natin na mostly on their own yung mga students, but I don't think totally out na yung collaborative learning. Tama po?
Hindi po, dapat po nandun po talaga siya.
That's right.
Opo. Kaya crucial po talaga na magawan po natin ng paraan na marami pong tools for collaborative. In Canvas po, marami po kayong magagamit po doon. Actually, isa sa mga best po yung Google Docs na pag-content creation kasi nga medyo mababa po ang internet na bandwidth na kailangan po doon. But
That's
definitely,
right.
yes, ma'am.
Oo. Kasi po iniisip ko na given the situation nga na most of our students would have most or even some, no, na limited ang kanilang internet connection. So, paano nila gagawin yung collaborative learning na yon? So, yun. Baka po mag-suggestions kayo na...
Opo, ma'am. Ma'am Rhea, may mga low bandwidth solutions for collaborative learning. Actually po, yung collaborative tools po sa Canvas, hindi po malakas ang kain yan sa bandwidth.
Alright.
That's one po. Siyempre po, yung sinasabi ko po sa inyo kanina, yung, tawag mo doon, yung you also explore G Suite applications, yung mga G Suite productivity tools. Mababa din po yung bandwidth po noon. Halimbawa po yung Google Docs po na sinasabi ko sa inyo. Pwede po siyang, na-try na po natin yan, di ba? Na pwede po siyang we create content together, kahit grupo po siya. Pwede po siyang offline. Halimbawa, once ma-download mo siya, pwede po siyang offline ka maglagay. And once you go online, automatically papasok na rin yung mga changes mo at makikita na rin ng mga groupmates mo. Of course, you can do Google Sites also. Actually, marami pong low bandwidth solutions. Yung mga G Suite po na what call this, productivity apps. At alam ko po si UPI naka G Suite din naman din po. But in Canvas itself, syempre, we would recommend you kasi nga, yun po yung LMS nyo. As much as possible, hindi na sinasabi namin sa eskwelahan. Clearly communicate to the students ano ba talaga yung platform na gagamitin. In this case, kung Canvas, huwag sana masyado tayong lumabas din para hindi po nakakahilo sa bata na ang dami nilang pupuntahan ng mga applications. So we have collaborative tools in Canvas. Hindi po masyadong mataas yung bandwidth na kinakain po nun. And of course, syempre, I'll give you a tip. You also coordinate po to telco providers because they are offering now whitelisting LMS. Nag-whitelist po sila ngayon para maka-access yung bata kahit wala pong internet.
Okay.
Yes po.
Alright, thank you very much.
Thank you, Miss Rhea. Meron pa pong tanong? Meron pa po ba? Thank you, Miss Catriona.
Okay, may question si Professor Rain dito sa chat box ni Jonna.
Apa?
Okay. Sabi niya, hello po, Canvas is very good LMS to use. There are also lots of LMS that surely offers the best for the teachers to be creative enough. However, with the issue of our connectivity and capacity of students to have the appropriate medium, laptops, cell phones, okay. Do you think using free social media sites such as FB and Twitter can be enough since these have wider reach?
Oh, actually, sir, what you need to check is that, yan po hindi ko po na-check as to how much Canvas would really take up in terms of your bandwidth vis-a-vis social media. Kasi po, when you stream, for example, videos, that's what you would opt po. Kasi, for example, you would stream videos using Facebook. Sabihin natin, doon ka magsisend. Halimbawa, may GC kayo, doon ka magsisend po. It will eat up, it will consume pa rin po a big bandwidth po eh. Malaki pa rin po ang bandwidth na kakainin niya. What my limited knowledge about bandwidth use of LMS, hindi po sila ganun kalaki. Lumalaki lang po sila kapag nagda-download po yung bata. May view po o may dina-download po sila. Kaya po hindi doon lang po yung lumalaki ng kain. But of course, iba pong usapan. I'm thinking about, of course, whatever it is that you're putting in Canvas, you put it in social media, okay po. Pero po, syempre, halimbawa, communicating, halimbawa talagang mahinang-mahina internet, even hindi kaya maka-access si Canvas. Ang kaya lang niya is that messaging lang, for example. Dito na ngayon papasok. Actually, in that case, you can really qualify students, hindi lang limited internet connection, but you can already qualify the student as with no internet connection. So dito na ngayon papasok po ngayon yung mga crucial po na may printed learning materials po kayo. Na at least maibigay po sa bata na magawa po nila. Ang tanong po, how they will communicate and get instructional support from you. Of course, there are so many ways. Of course, they can use your messaging apps. Pwede din pong SMS. Yan na pong babagsakan niyo po talaga. Text message or calls po talaga. Voice calls. Kasi nga po, mahina po talaga yung internet ng bata. We really would encourage you, kaya nga talaga ngayon, importante yung preparation stage because it's crucial that before the start of the term, sana po natapos nyo na po lahat yung mga instructional materials for the entire term. Because if you are catering to students without internet connection, it's more practical that you give all of them at the start of the school year na nakasave na siya sa USB, for example, or you print it and send it to them. Kasi po mahirap naman po na putol-putol nyo po siyang gagawin gawin, kung kailan nyo po lang po matatapos, the logistics of sending those materials will be, will be horrendous for all of you. Kaya mas maganda na ma-set nyo na lahat, ano yung mga kailangan yung syllabus, malinaw na, yung instructional materials, even yung assessments po ninyo, pwede yun na pong ibigay yun sa kanilang lahat. And then, you just have to identify how will you what's your touch point for students who do not have internet connection. Crucial po yun. Paano po kayo magko-communicate sa kanila? So sa amin po, even though we're doing a full online, we are also preparing what if mawala po talaga, magka-problema po ang internet infrastructure ng bansa. Ganun kalaki po yung tinitingnan. Paano po pag pumalpak na po siya totally at wala po tayong internet connection? So that's what we are preparing also. Na meron po kaming backup plan that you can actually, communicate to us through voice calls and through SMS. Yun po. I hope I answered the question, sir.
Yeah, thank you. So any other questions from our colleagues?
Sir, pwede ako?
Hi,
Yes,
sir.
Ricky.
Yes, good morning po.
Morning, sir.
Magaling at maganda ang ating presentation ngayon.
Thank you po, sir.
Ang gusto ko lang i-clarify din sa lahat is yung ating pag sinasabi nating asynchronous learning, no? Hindi siya equivalent to sa no internet kasi talagang ibig sabihin we have to prepare for 3 types of people, no? Or 3 types of strategies na gagawin. Meron tayong synchronous, meron tayong asynchronous with internet, at meron din tayong with no internet. So,
yes po.
Yun ang pangatlong kailangan paghandaan din. Ang ano po lang po, paano po natin kumbaga mapareho yung assessment doon sa tatlong yun? Later on, paano mo i-assess na natuto din siya doon sa kahit wala siyang internet, natututo pa rin siya. Magkaiba ba ang assessment doon sa tatlong sa dalawang yon?
Sure, pwede po nyo i-vary yung assessment kasi minsan po ang assessments po natin is highly dependent also on on the availability din ng internet, for example. Yeah. Pero po sir, kahit po varied po yung assessments po ninyo, ang tanong po doon, does it still measure the same thing?
Yes.
I think yun po ang crucial kasi nama po sir na mention nyo. Hindi ko kasi pinakita sa inyo sir kasi nga, I only focus on online instruction. But in one of my presentations with Rex, we tap po yung students with no internet connection and what you can do for them. Ako sandali lang, hindi ko mabuksan, hindi ko mahanap yung ano. Tama po kayo dun, sir, na importante po na malinaw po kasi SHED really is requiring us that we have to cater to 3 types of learners and that includes students without internet connection. So kailangan po malinaw din po doon. Ano po yung mode of instruction ninyo? Definitely po yun. Ano po yun? Offline po talaga yun. You really will make use of printed materials. Wala po kayo talagang choice doon. Printed materials, your touch points could have been, hindi ko pumanap yung file. Sabihin ko na lang po, the touch points could be, syempre, pwede po kayong mag-usap through calls, voice calls, SMS, landlines po, kung meron po kayong landlines available that you will release to them. You can also set up campus desks, yung mga help desks po sa campus. Malinaw po dapat kung paano po ipapadala ng estudyante yung kanilang completed work. Yun din po, I think, ang kailangan po makonsider ng eskwelahan. I told you, I'm teaching right now curriculum materials and design. At yung mga estudyante ko doon, they're coming from, I have students, I think around 6 students coming from the public schools. At ang tanong ko sa kanila is that, sige, you are catering to students with no internet connection. Ang tanong ko doon, how often will you provide feedback to students? Ano ba siya, pag binigay nyo ba yung course, may module daw po kasi sila, pag binigay nyo ba yung module nyo, halimbawa at the start of the school year, it will span for the next 3 months. Ang expectation ba na yun, nasa 3rd month nyo pa lang kukunin sa kanila? Ang tanong doon, hindi po yun unfair compared sa mga iba na may internet connection that you provide them regular feedback. And we know that regular feedback, this is where instruction really is taking place. Pero doon sa after 3 months mo lang ibibigay, nasagutan na nila yung lahat hindi nga nila alam kung tama yung sagot nila dun sa mga pinagagawa nila. Natapos yung isang buong module, walang guidance ng bata. So dito papasok ngayon, hindi naman kailangan ipasa ng bata physically yung mga printed materials, for example. But you have to have touch points. Dapat natatawagan ng bata yung teacher. Dapat na kahit paano na may idea si teacher kung makita niya kung paano sagutan ng bata. Dapat meron pa rin pong mga assessments on that one. Going back to what you were asking, sir, definitely, sir, the assessments can vary. But of course, the question that you have to ask when you vary it, depending on the type of learner, is that, are you still addressing the course objectives? Is your assessment addressing the course objectives that you've set in the first place? And you have to be very careful din po, syempre, kasi nga ang assessments po natin, nag-iiba-iba din po siya in terms of complexity once we change it. As much as possible, we do our best to strike a balance. Sana, pantay-pantay kahit papano. Of course, there's really talagang hindi naman talaga absolute po ang pagiging, ang equality po na mangyayari sa mga assessments ninyo. Pero as much as possible, we strive po sana na kahit papano, lahat po sila would address the course objectives that we have set in the first place. Yun po, sir.
Yes, salamat po.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you again, Ms. Jonna, and thank you, Sir Ricky. Okay, any other questions, dear friends or colleagues?
May tanong po dito, sir. We are required to do course pack which would provide for students with access, limited, and no internet. Which of the preparations do you think we would prioritize more since all will be under the same semester? Deadlines are all the same. I feel you, Sir Rainier. Ako po personally, by experience, I would really recommend that you prioritize preparing for those with no internet connection. Kasi po, mas manageable po siya na i-migrate online. Kesa po nag-online ka, tapos bigla pong gagawa ka po ng printed materials. Medyo mas mahirap po yun. Mas maganda po that you prepare for the worst case scenario. And that's, of course, in that case, the lowest common denominator is really students without internet connection.
Okay, thank you, Professor Rain.
Pa.
So, Professor Rain is from the College of Arts and Sciences. Okay, any other questions po from our colleagues and from other colleges also? Nandito sa atin. Pwede pong i-unmute ang inyong and then you can ask your questions live.
Si Miss Evie, Miss Paro. Yes, Miss Paro.
Okay. O yan. Ma'am Phoebe?
Sorry po, napindot lang yon. Sorry, sir.
Pero anyway, nandyan ka na, magtanong ka na.
No pressure.
Thank you so much po for this webinar.
Sana po may natutunan kayo kahit papaano.
Opo.
Yes po. Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am Jonna, i-follow up po ito galing po doon kay Sir Ricky na question. Kasi right now, isasubmit na po namin yung aming course syllabus kasi deadline namin. So, paano po namin may lalagay doon sa syllabus na dalawang klase yung evaluation namin, na this is for those na students na may internet, at for those parang yun nga, yung 3 types of. So that means, doon sa assessment tools, nakalagay na po doon yung different assessment tools na ilalagay namin?
Depende po, sir, ma'am, sa hihingin po ng college po ninyo, kung kailangan po ba naka-reflect na po doon sa syllabus. Pero actually, definitely, kasi ito yung i-release nyo sa bata, maganda na nakasulat na po siya doon kung ano po ang klaseng assessment na hihingin nyo po sa kanila. Halimbawa po, ma'am, bigyan niyo, ma'am, example sa akin, ma'am. Sige, bigyan niyo po ako ng example ng isang major assessment sa tuturo niyo ngayong term, ngayong SEM pala.
So, for example, ang isang, let's say, nutritional assessment, okay, yung sa HNF 254, nutrition progress, may part of the nutritional assessment. So, ang ano namin doon, so mostly, ang parang example, parang essay ang papagawa namin. Essay and anecdote. Which I think, naman siya.
Magagawa po siya kahit nang walang internet.
Synchronous, oo. Ang yung talagang ibang-iba yung talagang, hindi ko makaisip nung ibang-iba talaga yung, let's say, paggawa ng, mahirap kasi, yun, actually, yung example ko, pwedeng synchronous at asynchronous pero may mga iba kasing talagang, talagang ibang-iba. Ibang-iba yung, let's say, exercises. Exercise 1, for example. Itong iba, na isubmit na nila online, yung iba, hindi pa nila may isasubmit kasi wala silang internet. Yun po yung
Yun po talaga, ma'am, yun ang kailangan ma-adjust nyo, ma'am, kung paano nyo po, what you call this, is schedule. Given na halimbawa, hindi kayo makakapagbigay agad ng feedback sa kanila. Di ba po? I think yun yung concern po ninyo. Hindi kayo agad makakapagbigay ng feedback. Actually, ma'am, meron po kasi namang feedback mechanisms po kayo. Kasi unang-una, ang tanong po dahil, ma'am, na-set up nyo, identified nyo na ho ba yung mga estudyante nyo na walang internet connection? Kasi I think, ma'am, that very crucial po yun.
Opo, actually,
kailangan na map out nyo na po kung
yes,
sino po sila.
Opo. Actually, on the process na po yun, ma'am.
Kasi ang next po na tanong doon, paano nyo po sila kukontak? Paano po kayo magbibigay ng feedback sa gawa po nila? May estudyante po ba talaga tayo na kahit po mag-send ng email, hindi kaya? May lumabas pong ganun. Ma'am, may lumabas po ba sa profile?
Pero po talagang let's say, dun sa survey po namin, may talaga pong 4 na hindi nakasagot. Kasi that means hindi po talaga, ayun po sabi sa amin, hindi po talaga walang connection. Kahit ipa-text po namin sa classmates, hindi po kasi nga daw po walang.
Wala talagang signal.
Oo, walang signal.
So kahit cellphone.
Oo.
Ako, medyo mahirap po talaga yun.
Kung meron man, pupunta sila sa bayan para lang magka-signal.
Opo. Actually po, hindi po ako magmamarunong po sa ganyan, ha? Kasi mahirap po talaga yun. Yung talagang walang-wala na kahit signal ng cellphone, mahirap po talaga. Magiging challenging po talaga yun kasi you cannot really provide instructional feedback during the course of the semester itself. Diba? Kasi wala naman po kayong paraan para ma-reach out po sila. What you really can do really is to send the materials to them and then rely that they can actually manage it. I'm not sure po kung may pinopost sa si Ched kung paano po gagawin sa mga ganung klaseng estudyante na maintindihan po natin yung walang internet. Pero yung walang phone signal, parang medyo mahirap na talaga. Parang nasa kuweba na po talaga yung mga yun. Medyo mahirap po ata talaga yun.
Thank you,
kasi ang text po na tanong doon, paano nyo po mapapadala sa kanila?
May ginagawa naman po may mga naman po, may mga plans na naman po on how to do it.
Most likely po, hindi ko po masasagot yan pero but definitely ang recommend po talaga is that ideally as much as possible we find alternative ways on how we can still provide feedback to our students. Kahit hindi po siya kasing dalas ng iba, kahit paano magbigay pa rin po ng feedback. And ma'am, din sa inyong syllabus, you have to reflect po talaga yung assessments po for those with limited connection, internet connection, and with internet connection. Halimbawa po kasi ma'am, halimbawa yung essay niyo ma'am. Ang pwede po kasing variation niyo po dyan ma'am is that yung medyo mahina yung internet connection, pwede po mag-submit lang po sila through email ng kanilang essay. Those with good internet connection, you can ask them to use Google Sites, for example. Pwede silang gumawa o kaya pwede silang gumawa ng blog na doon po nila ilalagay. Kaya lang syempre, minsan, ang decision din ng teacher, ba't ko pa iibahin kung pwede naman essay na lang na isubmit nila lahat. May mga ganun din po. But definitely, for variety, and of course, para to engage also students, it's surprising how techy our students can be right now. And most of the time, our choice of what tech or app to use adds to the engagement of the students. So si estudyante, napansin po namin yan, if you ask them to write an essay, medyo hindi sila masyadong hindi masyadong sold out sa kanila. But if you ask them to write blogs, that's a different story. But of course, it's still a different story kapag what you're targeting is really their composition writing skills. Okay po. So thank you. Ano pa po?
Okay, any other questions?
Hello, Sir Greg. Good morning po.
Yes, Doc Godfrey. Yep.
Hello po. Hello po,
Hi,
Dr.
sir.
Good morning po. Thank you po sa webinar po, sa lectures and knowledge po. Tanong ko lang po, Doc, for example po, how would you feel po sa timed multiple choice questions for courses po na nag-i-impart po ng basic knowledge like intro to physiology or anatomy na medyo mahirap yung mga composition na assessment tools po?
Sir, mag-ingat po kayo sa timed assessments. Kasi po talagang, paano pag sinabi ng bata na nawala yung internet ko o mabagal yung internet ko, and we know that these are really possible. These are all possible scenarios. So, as much as we would want to, hindi po talaga siya, we really don't recommend that you do that because it would really be unfair to the students who would have slow internet connection. Even kahit, actually ako kagabi, what you call this, kaya ginabi na ako matulog kasi nga dahil sa lakas ng ulan, biglang sobrang hina ng internet. Sa school kahapon, supposedly internet connection in Saints Co should really be very strong kasi konti lang yung gumagamit, but they were not able to watch our completion rights kasi bigla siyang nag-slow down. So timed assessments like those, you really have to, may mga bagay po talaga that we have to let go this time. Kasi nga alam po natin na may limitations po talaga in the what you call this, in the connections of our students.
Okay po. Thank you po.
Opo.
Okay. So mayroong comment dito from one of our colleagues from another college. Sabi niya, "Sir, sandali. Basahin ko lang po. Congratulations po sa Che. This webinar is very impressive and informative. Sa dami po ng webinars about these topics, this is one of the most direct, to the point, and interactive. The speaker is very much fit for our needs. Congratulations again. More please from Che. God bless po." Maraming salamat po. From one of our colleagues in the College of Arts and Science. Okay. So other questions? May comment pa ating mga colleagues?
Okay na po.
Okay. So meron pa po? Wala na? May gusto pa yung sasabihin? Dean, do you have any comment? Or from the department chairs who are here? May question po kayo? Kung napapansin niyo po, so lahat ng ating mga speakers ay mga practitioners talaga. So we also need to listen and hear from other higher education institutions outside the University of the Philippines na parehas po ang pinanggagalingan natin. Okay, kasi sila po ay parehas natin na residential. Okay, and then they shifted to flexible learning. They're using technology na ngayon. So makikita rin po natin kung ano yung ginagawa nila at paano uma-advance. Kasi Miss Jonna, gagamit pa lang kami at bibigay pa lang sa amin yung canvas. You know, we're in a government bureaucracy. It's quite different from yours. So we are waiting for the UP system to provide us the canvas, but we're already given the signal that we are going to use the canvas. And so we will be allowed to use 2 LMS. So primarily, the UP system will be using the canvas. I don't know if Diliman will follow, but I guess yes. This is the first time that UP Diliman will follow the UP system. So anyway, so wala na po. May mga tanong po.
Sir Greg, ako share ko lang sir ngayon ang aking mantra ngayon. Hindi kailangan mauna. Hindi to paunahan. We have to learn from the others, especially doon sa mga nauna. So yun po lagi po namin ginagawa ngayon. We benchmark to other schools what they're doing and we learn from them. Very crucial po talaga yun. Hindi po tayo, ngayon ang mga eskwelahan ang challenge po sa atin. It's not about who's the best. No one can claim that they're doing, they are doing the best. Sila yung may best ngayon na delivery ng blended o kaya ng full online. I don't think there's a school who can claim that. But learning from each other and building from what our experiences, I think, magiging pinaka-strength po ng bansa natin ngayon. Saka ng academic institutions.
Okay, tama. Okay, nice point. Kasi, well, of course, in the UP system, we have the UP Open University, okay, who is the leading and the one and only distance education university in the country. So, but their journey is quite different from us. Kasi sila talaga, they started as a distance education university or provider because we are in a dual mode university of distance ed. Okay, but of course, we want to learn because at UPLB, same with other CUs or constituent units of the UP system, are residential in nature. So we also want to learn from the experience of those who the same with us, with the same category that we are in a residential mode and then shifting to flexible learning mode. So it's nice to also connect with what other higher education institutions are doing. So like what you're doing in De La Salle and at St. Scholastica's College. And next week, my dear colleagues, we will also be learning from one of our friends from Ateneo de Manila. So they are quite advanced din. Kaya lang, sa kanila, ang i-discuss sa atin ng ating speaker ay yung paggamit naman nila yung offline mode, the use of modules, the traditional, in order to reach out. Well, that's the Jesuit mantra, a man and woman for others, di ba? So ito pa yung ating purpose ng ating mga seminars ngayon. That's why we invited experts like Jonna and practitioners, okay? Sabihin po niya, hindi siya expert, but actually, she's one of the leading experts in this field. Okay, siya po yung paborito na speaker ng PEAC. Okay, that is the private educational, ano na yung C? I forgot. Okay, so that's the association of all the privates. Okay, and of course in the Philippines. Okay, association in the Philippines. So thank you again, Dr. Jonna. Okay, can we hear from our dean? By the way, colleagues, nakakatanggap na po ako ng email from the different colleges asking us if we can allow their faculty members to join our future webinars. Mukhang ngayon lang po inilalabas ng remote learning o na lumalabas yung ating balita na mayroon tayong ganito, and they are all interested to attend our webinar. So thank you very much to our colleagues from the different colleges who are here. Okay, you may also invite, or we'd like to invite your colleagues also to join us, because this is not really only for the UPLB College of Human Ecology, but this is for the whole university and all people, faculty and staff who are interested to learn from the experiences of the practitioners. Thank you, Jonna. Thank you for giving your time to us. I know that you are very busy, my dear. And thank you very much for saying yes. Okay, hindi ho siya nag-no nung sinabi ko. Okay, so maraming salamat.
It's an honor to be of help sa UPLB, of course.
Okay, maraming salamat at kami din. Sana makabawi din kami sa inyo pag kailangan nyo din kami.
Opo,
okay.
Lagi po. Nag-enroll po din kami sa UPOU eh.
Yes. Maraming salamat sa atin. O bago tayo magtapos, any last or closing remarks from our Dean, the College of Human Ecology? Can we have Professor Priagoso again? And then after which, wag muna po kayo mag-log out. We will have the UP naming so which will be the tradition of our webinars. Okay.
Yeah, okay. Salamat Greg uli. Salamat uli Dr. Jonna sa pagpapaunlak sa aming paanyaya sa pamamagitan ni Doc Greg. So, maraming salamat din sa mga lahat ng umattend, and hopefully we can have more doon sa mga susunod na ating webinar with other speakers, and joining us will be other colleges as well. Sinabi nga ni Doc Greg. So, this is an initiative ng college sa pangunguna ni Doc Greg, and we are happy na maligaya tayo, masaya tayo dahil nauna tayo na nag-sponsor ng ganitong klaseng webinar, at marami ang gustong lumahok sa ganitong webinar series natin. So mamayang hapon, meron pa tayong isa, department naman yun, ng DSERP about the LGU's response to COVID pandemic. So may mga mayors na invited, yung mga baka hindi alam na iba, ng mga ibang faculty members. Meron nung mamaya 3 o'clock ay si Mayor Abibina, who is an alumna of CHE, si Mayor Climaco ng Zamboanga City, and also our Honorable Mayor Cesar Perez, and one from Nasipag, Associate Professor, who will join us in this webinar then 3 o'clock. So I'm inviting everyone also in behalf of the Department of Community and Environmental Resource Planning. So again, maraming salamat Dr. Jonna. And we hope to meet face-to-face.
Soon. I will visit you po.
Okay. So maraming salamat sa lahat.
Mas bata po si Jonna kaysa sa akin.
Ha? Ano?
Mas bata po si Jonna kaysa sa akin. Bata pa po yan. She's one of the youngest actually in the Philippines.
Kita naman eh. Kita naman. Okay. So maraming salamat sa lahat. Maraming salamat. God bless everyone.
Thank you po.
Okay, so sa 9 o'clock ulit po next week, we will have Dr. Calano from the Ateneo de Manila University. Again, thank you, Dr. Jonna, and God bless you. Thank you, my dear colleagues. Okay, let's just pause for a moment for the UP naming mahal. maraming salamat po. Again, maraming salamat, Miss Jonna. Maraming salamat po sa ating mga colleagues. And God bless us all. See you again on Thursday. God bless. Thank you very much.
Bless po. Ingat po.
Thank you, Jonna.